Denise Williams here on the Q96.5 FM. As we open up the doors to the Dome on a Tuesday morning. Gosh, you know, it's Monday slid away from me so quickly here today. And the rest of the week will slide by that quickly as well, I guarantee it. But gosh, it was hot yesterday. We were advertised some rain. It never came. I don't know. I'm going to blame that all on Jeff Erb at the main stops because Jeff, he never likes the rain because it slows business down and everything else. So I'm blaming you, Jeff, and you can give me all kinds of grief if you want to this afternoon on the golf course, and you will probably, as you always do, kick my tail on the golf course because that's just the way that it works. But I digress. The doors of the Dome, they're open 9:12 here on a Tuesday morning, and we start with a guest, and we do that an awful lot. Tuesday mornings are known for having educational people in today. Today, we're fortunate enough to be able to talk to Amy Miller, who's the president and CEO of the Bryan Area Foundation. And Amy, good to have you here.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks for having me.
You know what? I'll tell you, what a crazy time we're in, huh?
It is, yes. COVID-19 has definitely changed 2020.
2020 can, we had such high hopes for 2020, you know what I mean? Right? And then here this thing happens, and now everything's slowed down and gone crazy and gone sideways. And but we're all surviving. That's the important part.
Exactly. It's been challenging, but I think there are a lot of good things that are still taking place, and how lucky we are to be in Bryan, Ohio, where things are a little bit more manageable.
No doubt about that. When I tell people around the country, I've got a good friend that I just hooked up with again, who's an old fraternity brother of mine. And I haven't seen him forever, and he's over in Pennsylvania, in Doylestown, Pennsylvania, which is one of the hot spots, and the original hot spots, okay? So they really saw the nasty side of this whole pandemic that we're looking at. And knock on wood, I'm hoping that we don't ever see that side of that pandemic either here in Bryan.
Agreed.
You know? That would be nice to be able to get away from it. Now, 2020 has been a pretty good year for you, though.
It has, yes.
Yeah, because just recently, was it June?
In June, yep.
Okay.
I transitioned to the role of president and CEO of the Bryan Area Foundation, and that was upon the retirement of Jack Brace, who was a wonderful steward of the foundation for a little over 7 years. And we all know Jack, and he's served our community for such a long time. So I was really grateful to get a chance to work with him. And he stayed on through the month of June to help kind of train me and get me ready to go, too.
Fantastic, yeah. Jack is a wonderful man. There's no doubt about that. Now, is he still going to play in the city band? Do we know that?
He is,
okay.
Yes. He's still very active in everything that he was doing before. He just has a little bit more time for it.
Well, that's better then. That's a good thing. Jack's not a bad golfer either, too. I played golf with Jack once here a while ago.
You're exactly right. I know he plays on Mondays for sure, so he's a regular group that does that.
And you know what? When the days of the week are important, Amy. How's that? I mean, the real good golfers play on Monday and they play on Thursday, okay? And the guys like me, they play on Tuesday and Thursday, and or Tuesday and Wednesday, and that is basically mandated by the clubs.
That's great. I didn't know that, but now I do.
Yeah, a little unknown fact that you learn when you come here and sit down and talk to us on a Tuesday morning, and it's all baloney too. If you haven't noticed that, the baloney gets a little stacked kind of deep around here on a Tuesday as well. Tell me a little bit about the Bryan Area Foundation.
Sure. Well, actually, what I would love to tell you is a little bit of the history of the foundation because it's really great. So back in 1969, Al Horn, who worked for the Internal Revenue Service, gave a presentation to the Bryan Rotary Club, and it was on this idea of a community foundation. Okay. And out of that, Lem Hawk and John Dwyer really said, we need this. Our community needs to have a community foundation, something that can help to provide, financial contributions for needs within the community for years to come. Okay. So out of that, they started meeting with a group of community leaders. It ended up being 23 people who were the founders of the Community Foundation. And they went on for some time meeting and talking about this idea and how they would give the grants and how it would all work. But they hadn't actually accepted any money, and they hadn't actually started investigating anything. So the story goes that they were having yet another another meeting, a lot of conversation, and G. Grant Brown stood up and said, I got to go. The lunch crowd is coming in, because at this time he owned Brownies, which you're probably familiar with, used to be where the Bryan Times is today. Let's quit talking about this and do something. And he plunked down a $50 bill. And by the end of that meeting, they had $200 in cash, which would become part of the first initial contribution into the Bryan Area Foundation. So that was 1969.
Wow.
Today, as of this morning, the Bryan Area Foundation has $27.4 million endowed.
Wow.
And in 2020, which would be our fiscal year, 2020 ends at the end of June, so June 30th.
Okay.
So
all right.
Our last year, we gave over $1 million in gifts to the community. So we broke the $1 million mark. So from this point forward, we should be able to give $1 million or more each year, assuming obviously people ask for the grants. But
normally they do.
It's a great story.
That is a wonderful story.
Picturing him plunking down that $50 and saying, "Let's go."
And you know, in that time, 1969, a $50 bill was a couple of dollars. It's not like a $50 bill is today. I mean, a 50 was probably a week's paycheck.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
for most of the people in Bryan, Ohio, maybe even more, because at that point in time, a buck and a quarter an hour was about what people were getting paid.
Yeah.
So it is a wonderful story, and to parlay that from there to here is such wonderful stewardship in between now and then too. You know, gosh, it's amazing how you can get a group of people and get them that focused. And you got to figure this. Some of this is invested in the stock market at times, so there's the investment has to go up and down every now and then because you're hanging on to money. But what a wonderful group of people to be able to worry about this and work with this and grow it the way that it has been. So tell me just a little bit about some of the things that you do with the money. I mean, if I just call you tomorrow and say, Amy, and I got Amy Miller right now with the Bryan Area Foundation, need a couple $100. I lost it on the golf course yesterday to Herb. Okay, that's not the kind of grant you're looking for, right? I don't get a grant for that to cover my my golf losses this afternoon.
No, unfortunately not. Although I would love to help you out.
Okay.
So how it would typically work if we can only donate our funds to community nonprofits through our grant making.
Okay.
So a nonprofit would come meet with me. So they would contact the Bryan Area Foundation office. They would sit down and tell me what their needs are.
Okay.
And then I would walk them through. There's a formal application process, and then we have a committee that reviews those grants and then comes back with recommendations. And then after a period of time, determine whether or how much money to give to that particular organization.
Wow.
And that's just one type of fund or grant making we do. We also have funds where an organization, like for example, the United Way, has a fund with us, which is an organizational fund.
Okay.
So they've made an investment with us, and each year they get to have a check that comes back, assuming obviously it's a decent year, but they can use that then for operational expenses, because typically our grant making is to go towards a particular project or some type of something special, not just for operational expenses. But there are organizational funds that allow for having a constant flow of income coming back to help with those needs.
Wow, I never knew that. That's amazing. And the United Way, what a wonderful organization, and they do a great job of working to in the community itself, but also raising fundraising, and people are more than willing to give money to the United Way because they know the great things that they fund at that point in time. But I didn't realize that was part of the business as well.
Yeah, and there are a lot of churches and many different organizations have those type of funds. There are many other fund types as well. I don't know how much time you have to talk about that. We've got about 2.5, 3 more minutes before I have to play some commercials, so Susie doesn't come in here and twist my arm and tell me that I'm not doing my job, because Susie's the boss around here. If you don't know that, Amy, Susie's in charge. But continue, please. So we also have scholarship funds. So you probably are very familiar with that. So each year we give a variety of scholarships. So people can establish an individual scholarship fund that then contributions and are designated each year. We also have community funds, which are unrestricted funds, which allow the Bryan Area Foundation members to make more responsive grant making. So, for example, COVID-19 is obviously caused many different things to happen with our community. We can be more responsive with some of our grant making because they're unrestricted. We don't have any rules regarding how they can be spent.
Wow. So somebody, as long as they're a nonprofit, who all of a sudden was doing just wonderfully, but because of COVID-19 might need a little help, could potentially reach out to you at the Bryan Area Foundation.
Sure.
Now, do they have to be in Bryan themselves? Do they have to be a Bryan business?
No, really, we serve all of Williams County, and really we call it the Bryan area, so we may even kind of extend a little bit beyond that at times if it's a great service to our community. At the end of the day, we're just trying to serve our community, and we view that as being a little bit broader than just Bryan, Ohio.
Sure. What a wonderful situation. I know everybody knows the Bryan Area Foundation for their scholarships for the students, and that is just, it's mind-boggling the amount of money that you guys are able to hand out in scholarships every year to those young folks to keep them going. Now, I promised I wasn't going to bring it up, but right before the commercial break, this is probably the apropos time. You're a Red Hawk, from Miami,
Yes.
I'm a Bobcat from OU, and they're, we basically are not supposed to play well together, but I think we're doing okay so far, don't you think?
We are. I think we're all right.
Amy Miller, who's the president and CEO of the Bryan Area Foundation, is with me right now. I do need to step away and pay a couple of bills. When we come back, we will talk about more of the fine things, and I do want to get into the new construction that's going out in the park, because I think that's going to be an exciting project, and we'll find out where they're at with that here as well when we continue our conversation with Amy.
WQCT Q96.5.
Just go ahead and jump. You know what? Before Amy Miller was the president and CEO of the Bryan Area Foundation, she probably would have been jumping right now, right here in the studio. That's what I've heard. That's what Scott Benedict told me. So, Amy, it's not my fault. If that's untrue, then you take it up with Scott, and I'll correct it with him here.
I'm active. I'll jump.
There you go. You look like you're active, man. You've got to be, though. You got a couple of sons, right?
I do. I have 2 boys. Jack is 16 and Tucker is 12. So they definitely keep me jumping. I'm always running around going to sporting events and following them. So it's a lot of fun.
But that, what a wonderful time of life.
It is. I'm lucky to be here in Bryan doing it. That's for sure.
Yeah, I would agree. I came from a little town called Troy, which is just north of Dayton. And my father worked for the city of Troy for 25, 30 years. And he always thought that Bryan was like a small Troy. It reminded him a lot of the same kind of community. And that was just it's 25,000. So, it's 3 times our size, but the same family values, the same feel on the streets and everything. They're 2 neat towns. They really are.
It really is a gem. I mean, especially when we go out and meet people from other communities, for them to just know what it is that we have here. It's a great place to be, a great place to raise a family. That's for sure.
Well, I think the proof is in the pudding, as my grandfather used to say. You know what I mean? How many people like yourselves and your husband, moved away. All right, we got to get out of here. It's Bryan, Ohio. You go to college, you find other work, and the next thing you know, you have some kids, and you go,
Makes a lot of sense to move back to Bryan. Yes, that's exactly what happened to us. So we moved back to Bryan about 12 years ago, exactly 12 years ago, because my youngest son was 8 weeks old when we moved here, so it's easy for me to remember exactly how long we've been here.
Yeah, that is, isn't it, huh? But it is. It just is one of those nice towns, and the schools are excellent, and the people are friendly, and you don't worry too much about them, getting into too much trouble, or having too much trouble being around them, although it is a different world than it ever has been. But a great town. So Amy's with the Bryan Area Foundation. She is the new president and CEO, and you are digging holes out in the park right now.
Yes, we are. And a lot of people have asked a lot of questions about that, so I'd love to kind of explain what that project is.
Please
what's
do.
Being built.
Yes.
So what's the structure that you see going up in the park is actually an amphitheater. So it'll be an open air amphitheater that'll have all of the sound systems and things to have large events, to host, bands or that type of thing. We didn't realize it at the time when that idea or that concept was selected, but what a timely opportunity, especially with coronavirus, because I think for a long time having something open air and outdoors is really going to be beneficial and really serve our community well. So what's being built, that structure actually started, the idea for a community gift actually started way back in 2009. A group of community members, similar to kind of the starting or the founding of the foundation, a group of community members got together and said, let's start saving now, with the intent of having a large gift to our community in the year of 2020. So they called it Project 2020. Each gave a contribution ongoing for those years, and then in 2019 solicited for ideas for the community on what do you want to have. So we've created this nest egg, and we're going to invest it in the community. What does the community want? So they had kind of sort of like a contest, and people submitted all their ideas for what they'd like to have within the community. And then those people who had been investing and putting their money into it voted and determined that the amphitheater would be the best project. And then right behind that, we're working on interactive fountains, which will also be a part of the amphitheater experience. We are still doing a little bit of fundraising for the interactive fountains, and those probably won't get actually built until next year. But the amphitheater itself is scheduled to be done actually by the last week in October, is what the architect and designer has stated. So
so is there a possibility that something could actually take place, some sort of concert or whatever?
We would love to, and there's a lot of conversation about that right now. So it's very, as you know, it's just so hard to plan right now with COVID. A little bit on the fence, but we would love to have something for the community before the end of the year, before it has to be kind of closed up for the winter.
That would be nice to be able to get one nice show in before the winter hits. All right, dollars. How many dollars did you raise for this? What's the cost?
So the cost of it is around $433,000 for the amphitheater itself. That small group raised around $220,000, and then there was a grant from the Bryan Area Foundation and some other community members have given, and then also there's some state funding that's been allotted to help support it as well.
Wow.
So the total cost with the interactive fountains and the full amphitheater project is a little over $700,000.
Wow.
So a lot of collaboration and
but that's what you guys do best.
Yes.
I mean, that is what the Bryan Area Foundation does well, and has done well since that first $50 hit the table. There's just no doubt about that. And it's fun to be able to watch that and see what's happening. How big? I mean, how big is the stage itself? Is it a smaller stage? I've been out to kind of get a feel for it. So it's not. Is it as big as the band shell downtown? Is it?
I think it's probably larger. I didn't jot down the specifications, but I did actually look at that. It's funny you mentioned it, and I want to say it's like 38 or 40 feet wide. So if that gives any indication. If you pass through the park, if you go through that path that kind of goes through, you can get an idea of what that structure looks like. And actually, we kind of determined with all these questions we're receiving, we're going to put up a coming soon sign with kind of a picture of what it's going to look like when it's completed. So
that'll be good.
Be on the lookout for that over the next couple weeks too, so you kind of have a better idea of what it will be.
Excellent. Because will that be up on all social media? All your
that we have, but we're going to actually put one physically in the park next
in the
to
park?
the structure.
Oh,
so you
gosh,
can see, you can see the structure going up, but you can see what it will look like when it's done.
Wonderful idea. So people that want to see the pictures, though, and see what it's going to look like, can, at this point in time, if they go up to your website, your Facebook page, all those places?
Yes, and we also have a really great picture just inside our office space and kind of the vestibule. I don't know how many people, but if you happen to be up by the office, you're welcome to stop by and look at that too.
Yeah, you've got a good-sized field, a nice big green space with some trees and everything else in front of it. So I'm sure numbers of heads that you can put out there, even social distancing, are quite a few.
Yes, and we're really grateful. The city has been wonderful. Obviously they've donated that land for us to build that structure. And after it's built, the Parks and Rec Department will take care of the maintenance ongoing. So we're really lucky to, obviously we can set up something like that, but to have their support and being able to, have it taken care of for years to come is really important. So a huge thanks and shout out to the city and the Parks and Rec Department for their support and contribution too.
They have always been a wonderful department, and they've always done a great job, and Ben and his crew over there, always 2 thumbs up to those guys. They've got a huge job. There are so many parks in this town, and to try to take care of them all is amazing. All right, now here's the critical and probably the most important question and I'm going to ask about this whole thing and this fountains. Are these fountains that guys like me are going to get to run through, or are these just decorative fountains?
No, you can actually play in them a little bit. You can actually get in them. They are not, it's not a splash pad. That's something different, but they are interactive fountains that could be played with. So basically they'll have lights and things and kind of dance and sequence as well. But they're not going to be like barricaded off. You could get into them and
you could actually walk through and actually be sprayed on a nice warm
That's my
summer day.
understanding, yes.
Okay, well, I've got this on record now, okay? So when they come out one day and they find me out there splashing around in the puddles.
I don't want to see you with a shampoo bottle and a bar of soap, though.
Darn. Well, you have to talk to my wife about that one, because if she says you got to go, then you got to go. But I'll try not to.
All right.
This sounds like it's going to be a whole lot of fun. I really, and I wondered when they came up with the idea of putting it out there, where are you going to put it? How's it going to fit? I've been out to look at the construction a couple times going through there, and it just fits. I think it's an excellent location too.
I think so too. What I'm really excited about, I mean, obviously there's a lot of work, especially getting everything scheduled and getting people slated to, actually utilize the amphitheater. But I'm just envisioning, Saturdays in the park where there are bands playing, and maybe there's a Boy Scout troop selling popcorn, and there's, another group doing a fundraiser. And I see it as a great joining place and an opportunity to interact and get a lot of different groups together. So looking forward to some free family fun.
That sounds like a lot of fun. Late October, last week of October, possibly we could be there.
That's the goal. That's where we're driving toward.
Yeah, that's always it's always tough, and you can't hold anybody to any kind of construction timetables nowadays, especially with all the craziness that's going on. But it would be wonderful. And if nothing else, next year is going to be an awful lot of fun to have that here for 2021. Amy Miller, President and CEO of the Bryan Area Foundation, is my guest. I need to step away one more time. It is 18 minutes before the hour of 10 o'clock here on the Q. BG's here on the Q 96.5 FM. 13 before the hour of 10 o'clock Tuesday morning. We're going till 1 here in the Dome. I got Yash coming in from Diamond and Gold Outlets here in the next hour, and we'll chat with him, see what he's selling over in Napoleon today in the way of jewelry, and what kind of great deals and specials he has for you out there, especially if you're going to get married this year. Yash is always the guy to go see. He's got the best deals on the diamonds and the engagement rings and all those kind of things. Got a great layaway program and all those too, so we'll talk to Yash here in the next hour, and we'll see how Yash is holding up in Napoleon. All right, Amy Miller with me right now. Last segment, President and CEO of the Bryan Area Foundation. And Amy, it has been wonderful. I really appreciate you being here today. And don't make this the last. I mean, if you ever have anything that you want to talk about, you know where I am and you know how to get a hold of me. How's that?
That sounds like a plan.
All right. That does sound like a plan. I have had the folks in here from Power in the Purse.
Yes.
I always get that wrong.
Yes,
Power in the Purse,
we call
right?
It PIP for short, but yes, it's Power in the Purse. So
okay.
You've got that perfect.
Because I've called it Power of the Purse. I've called it, Power coming out of the purse. I've called it all kinds of things. But there is only one living brain cell, and I did go to Ohio University. Okay, not Miami. Miami's where all the smart people went, the guys like me that just barely scrounged around in the 70s and were able to claw their way through college, okay? I went to OU at that time. So you have to take that in mind as well. Okay, that's why there's a battle oftentimes between the two, because you're the smart guys and we're the party guys.
Well, I don't know about that, but I do like Miami of Ohio, and I do call it my home.
So now let's talk about Power in the Purse, because I've had several representatives come in and talk about that, and what a great organization that is.
It is awesome. So Power in the Purse is kind of an offshoot of the Bryan Area Foundation. It's a women's giving circle, and the women get together 4 times a year. It's open to any woman within Williams County that'd like to participate. What they do is they give a $50 contribution at the beginning of the year, and that goes into our Power in the Purse Endowment Fund, which is endowed with the Bryan Bryan Area Foundation. So we're actually at a point now, we've been in place for 5 years, so we actually have money now coming back to us from the endowment fund to spend, so that's kind of exciting. But what happens is then for each quarter's meeting, each female member gives another $50 contribution, and then we pool that money. And we have 3 nonprofits that present a project or something that they would like to do with that particular pool of money. Okay. And then the group votes and decides which one to send the money to for that particular quarter. So what happens is an individual, like myself, I'm a member of Power in the Purse. I have a small $50 contribution, but together we have a $5,000-ish contribution. I know last quarter's contribution was $5,750, and it'll be the same amount for this coming quarter. We can't meet right now, unfortunately, in person, but we are still voting and going through the process all electronically. So the same nomination process of nonprofits and voting is still happening.
Some of the organizations that you have benefited just recently. Name drop a couple for me, can you? Is that
sure? So the most recent one was the United Way COVID. So they have the COVID Relief Fund, and we donated to that. Okay. Previously, we've donated to a lot of different organizations. I know we benefited the Bryan Swim Team when they did their project for the blocks, the starting blocks, and the timing systems and things. We've benefited, all different little projects. But I mean, it's just the thing that's impactful is that it's a big gift that comes out of this, small group of women.
It is, and it's amazing what you guys do. I really am. I was when they first came in and it started, because it's not that old. How many years has Power in the Purse?
So it'll be 5 years this October.
Yeah.
And I think the thing I enjoy most about it, and for any listeners, if they're interested in Power in the Purse or would like to come to a meeting, you can actually come to a meeting without joining. You can just come see what it's like.
Okay.
Is listening and learning about the different nonprofits. That has really opened my eyes. I've learned about so many great nonprofits that exist within our county that I didn't even know were here and serving a purpose. And that's probably been the greatest thing. So even if one of those nonprofits that isn't selected, maybe for the pool of money, I've still learned about them, and if I want to go make an individual contribution, I can as well. So for all those nonprofits out there, get to know some PIP members too, because it's a great way to get access to some much needed funding.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about that, and they have come in handy for a number of nonprofits in the past 5 years. So what a wonderful group. All right, let's before you leave, tell the folks how maybe they can get involved, because oftentimes people say, I do have a little money I'd like to donate to the Bryan Area Foundation. I have this going on, I have that going on. If they'd like to just pick up the phone and call you and explore those avenues, can they?
Absolutely. So they could contribute to a named fund, something that they want that money to go to directly, or they could establish their own fund. Either way, they can contact our office and we'll help them with any of those donations. We just really encourage philanthropy and encourage giving. So whether that's to us at the Bryan Area Foundation or to the nonprofit of your choice, if you're able to give, we just like to encourage philanthropy and giving. And right now for 2020, if you're in a position to give, the CARES Act, which stands for Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, actually makes it really easy for you to donate. So if you're an individual taxpayer that does not itemize, you can take advantage of a new above-the-line $300 deduction for cash contributions to any qualified charity. So you can take that in addition to your standard deduction. So that'll be available through the end of this calendar year.
Yeah.
So we just encourage, if you're able to give, whether that's, and philanthropy isn't just a financial contribution, it's also giving of your time. So we just encourage giving.
Oh man, I'll tell you, you guys have ever since that first 50 hit the table, and I'm hoping that long into the future, after we're no longer here, that this just continues from one generation to another. Amy Miller, congratulations on the new job.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Jim.
And thank you to the Bryan Area Foundation for all the wonderful things that they get done on a regular basis. All right, I look forward to having you back in some other time. Hopefully I didn't scare you away, but if I did, well, Scotty, you're the one that probably put her up to it, so it's all your fault. How's that? We're playing golf this afternoon, but I've got to work until 1. How's that? Tom Petty on the Q. Home for classic hits.